Begin today the Gemara on Daf Tes, Al Medalef, at the beginning of the Amid, where it says, "Let Rabbi Shmuel." Okay, so we're discussing here the kapara of the Karbanis on Yom Kippur. There are two seirim, two goats that are brought, one inside, the blood is sprayed inside in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and on that the Mishnah said that what's it mechaper for? For a case of Tumeh, when a person came to the Beis HaMikdash, or he ate Kodesh, and he had a Yediyah B'tchila, he realized in the beginning, but no Yediyah B'Seif, he didn't realize afterwards. And then there's the sar that's brought outside. Part of the Karbanis Musaf, and the blood is sprayed outside Mizbeach. That's also mechaper for a Tumeh in the Beis HaMikdash. But in the opposite case, where he had no Yediyah B'tchila, and he did have Yediyah B'Seif. Okay, so this is all based on everything that we've been learning till here, that when it comes to the carbon chatos that's brought for Tumeh in the Beis HaMikdash, it's unique. It's different than every other carbon, that there's this condition that has to be a Yediyah B'tchila and the Yediyah B'Seif and the Helim, the lapse of awareness in the middle, then he's chayav the carbon. But here the Gemara brings us another opinion about this. Talk to Gemara, let Rabbi Shmuel da Amar. Rabbi Shmuel's opinion about this is, Ein ba Yediyah B'tchila, v'yesh ba Yediyah B'Seif, in a case where the person wasn't aware in the beginning that he was tummy at all, and in the end he realized what happened. B'karbanu. This is just like all other karbanis chatas. There is no condition that you have to have Yediyah in the beginning. So here as well, by the Tumeh, you bring a carbon for this. So if so, the question is, Sa'ir hanasa b'chotz amay mechaper. So the goat that's brought in Yom Kippur, and it's outside, the blood is sprayed outside, what is this mechaper for? It's not like what we said before, that it's mechaper for this case, where he had no Yediyah in the beginning, and he had a Yediyah in the end. Such a case, you chayav a carbon chatas like any other aveda b'sheigig. So then you don't need the sar of Yom Kippur to be mechaper for this. So the Gemara, the answer is al she'ein ba yediyah loy b'tchila v'loy b'seif. According to Rabbi Shmuel, the goat outside in Yom Kippur is mechaper in a case where the person was tamei walking to the Beis HaMikdash and he didn't know about this at all. Not in the beginning, not in the end. A vase garnished. That's what it comes to be mechaper for. For the Gemara, how could you say this? Hi, this case seirei haragolim or seirei rosh chadashim mechaperin, as it said in the Mishnah in the beginning of the Perek here. This case where a person was tamei and is in the Beis HaMikdash and knows nothing, that's what the soir, the chatos and the musaf of a yantif and of every Rosh Chodesh, where there's a carbon chatos, a goat as well, that's what it's mechaper for. So you don't need the soir of Yom Kippur to be mechaper for this.
If he doesn't know anything about it, so
correct. He knows nothing about it, so he can't bring a carbon. So the Eibush is mechaper for him. The Eibush is mechaper for him through the carbon that's brought on Yom Kippur. But the Gemara is asking, the side of Yom Tiv and of Rosh Chodesh is mechaper for this. And says the Gemara, Savalak Rab Meir, Rab Shimon holds like Rab Meir. Amar, Rab Meir said in the Mishnah in the beginning of the Perek, Kol HaSeirim, all the various different goats that were brought as a chatos in the Musaf, and that's of Yom Kippur, Yom Tiv, Rosh Chodesh, Kaparas and Shaveh. They all have the same kapara, al tumas mikdash v'kadoshav, that it's mechaper for the tumah of mikdash v'kadoshav, and that includes the case where he had no yediyah at all, and in a case where he had no yediyah in the beginning, it's mechaper for this. It's mechaper for all these cases. The only case that the sar b'fnim is mechaper for a case where the person has yediyah b'tchila, but he did not have yediyah b'seif, so that the sar b'fnim is mechaper on Yom Kippur. But otherwise, the Sa'ir B'chutz of Yom Kippur is together with the Sa'ir of Yom Tiv and Rosh Chodesh. They're all mechaper equally on Tumas Mikdash v'Kadashav.
You need three kabbalas for that.
Yeah, because if a person got Tomei in between, and this happened in between one and the other, just like you need to have this every Rosh Chodesh and every Yom Tiv. Why do you need it again and again during the year? Because if it happened, the Aveda happened in between, why should the person have to wait for his kapara until next year? So he has every Rosh Chodesh, and he has also Yom Kippur, and he has also Yom Tiv, so it keeps on being mechaper for Yidden, for all the Yidden that this could happen to. So now, according to Rab Shimon, according to this opinion, Elalamai Hilchaseh, Iskish Chitzain Lepnimi. Regarding what does the pasuk say that we compare the two goats that are brought in Yom Kippur? The one that's brought inside and the one that's brought outside, there's a hekish in the pasuk that we compare the two. Regarding what do we compare them? The lashon the pasuk, when it speaks about the sar b'chutz that says a musaf, it says milvat chatas hakipurim. It's brought outside, besides the chatas hakipurim that's brought inside. So that shows that we compare the two. Regarding what do we compare them? Before the Gemara said we compare them regarding the concept that both of them are mechaper for this aveda, where there has to be some kind of yediyah. but not according to Rab Shimon, not according to Rab Meir. It has nothing to do with Yediyah, even with no Yediyah at all. Even if there was no awareness of what happened there, not in the beginning, not in the end, it's mechaper. So regarding what is the comparison in the pasuk of these two? The comparison is ma pnimi ena mechaper b'shar avedis. Just like the goat that's brought inside is not mechaper for all other avedis, it's only mechaper for this, for the tumah in the Beis Hamikdash. Av chitzayin ena mechaper b'shar avedis. The chitzon is also not mechaper for any other avedis, only for this tumah. So the Gemara said weiter in the Mishnah, al she'ein bo yediyah b'tchila v'loy b'saif. That in a case where a person was tamei and he does not know anything about this, not before and not after, seirei regalim v'seirei rosh chodashim mechaperin, divrei Rabbi Yehuda. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's not this the seer of Yom Kippur, like we just said, according to Rabbi Meir's opinion, according to Rabbi Shmuel, but according to Rabbi Yehuda, this case where the person knows nothing, so the soir, the goat of the chatos of Yom Tov and Rosh Chodesh is mechaper for this. So what's the source of this? Some Rabbi Yehuda Mashmuel, my time the Rabbi Yehuda Makra, the pasuk says, "Useir izim echad lechatos lashem." This is the lashon of the pasuk that says by Rosh Chodesh that you bring a seir izim lechatos lashem. So why does it say here that word lashem? It doesn't always say when it says chatos the word lashem. So why does it say here the name lashem? Chet she'ei makir boy el lashem. What is this goat, the korban chatos of Rosh Chodesh mechaper for? And aveda that only the Eibishter knows about it. Yehei sar zeh mechaper. This sar is mechaper for this, and that's a case where a person was told me walking to the Beis Hamikdash and knows nothing about it. Only the Eibishter knows, and the Eibishter is mechaper for him. So the Gemara, this extra word of Lashem is actually darshan for something else. This word Lashem teaches what Rish Lakish said. Why by the Rish Chodesh, the sar, the chatas, does it say that it's Lashem for the Eibishter? Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Eibishter says, Sar zeh yehei kapara al, or alai, another guy say here, this sar that's brought in Rosh Chodesh is actually a kapara for me, the Eibishter says. Shemi ateti es hayereach. Since I minimize the light of the sun, so, and Rosh Chodesh, where it's all based on the cycle of the moon, and it's the chiddush of the Levana on Rosh Chodesh, so you bring a kapara for the Eibishter that was mamayit, the light of the moon. That's why it says it's a kapara l'Hashem. If you look here on the side of the Gemara, it says that this concept that the Eibishter needs a kapara. Here in this Gemara, it's printed as in the Ois Gimel. This is a Said, Mesaidus HaKabbalah, Ve'ein la avinik mashmai chas v'shalom. What does it mean? That you have to be mechaper for the Eibishter? It's a Said. So if you want to know what the pshat of this Said is, you have to look into what it says in Kabbalah. You look into what it says in Lekut Siches. The Rebbe explains this by Arichas and Asiche, and Chelik Lamed, Parshas Bereishis, a whole Arichas regarding the subject, where the Gemara explains this in another place, that Eibishter creates the world where the light of the sun and the moon are both equal, and then afterwards the moon complains that two kings that are ruling in the world, and the Eibishter is mamayit the light of the sun, and then afterwards the Eibishter appeases the moon, that is, and the Eibishter appeases the moon by giving it the fact that it's going to establish when Yom Tov is going to be and so on, and then until over here it says that the Eibishter says, I need a kapara. What's this whole concept all about? So Bekitzer, this is the whole point of how the Eibishter creates the world. Mitzah, the truth of who the Eibishter is, and the truth of what the mitzias of the world is, the moon and the sun both have to be shining strong, which represents the fact that it's all one with the Eibishter. The mitzias of the world is all one with Hashem. That's the way the world is originally created, with the shleimus of what the world is really about. But then the Eibishter's kavanah was that there should be a mitzias of a world that should identify itself as an existence, and that's the miyat of the yereach that allows the world to feel itself. And then in this belt, we're going to bring and reveal the Eibishter. So when it says here, "Avio like kapara shemati sayereach," this concept of the kapara is the ongoing aveda to make the connection between the Eibishter's perspective of what the truth is, to bring that into the mitzias of the world, that the world should be margish. The carbon brings that kapara, so to speak, for this ein of the miyat hayereach to connect to the mitzias of the world, that truth of the original light of the moon, which will be again l'asad lave when Mashiach comes. That's the concept. You can look in the Sikha Barichas, the Rebbe explains it. Now, so the Gemara's question is, how do you know that the word Lashem is here to tell us that it's coming to be mechaper for such a kind of aveda that the person knows nothing about? If the word Lashem teaches something else. Answers the Gemara, Al Hashem. If it's only coming to say this point, that it's mechaper for the Eibishter, it should say Al Hashem, for Hashem. My le'Hashem, when it says le'Hashem, that means lekadamara, like we said before, that this is something which is only known to Hashem. It's being mechaper on the avera of the person, which is known LaHashem. So if so, says the Gemara, so should we not say that the whole pasuk is only coming to teach this point that we're saying here, that it's mechaper on avera that's only known to the Eibishter? So the Gemara says no, but if so, imke name mikra chatos Hashem. So then it would say that this is a chatos Hashem, that only the Eibishter knows about this avera. My LaHashem, when it says LaHashem, so it could also be translated as a chatos for Hashem. So when it says LeHashem, it has two connotations, it has two mashmoasin. So therefore, shamet minotarti. The Torah writes it in this eifin that we could learn both, that this is a kapara for the Eibishter, and it's also a kapara for the yid that does an avera, the tumah and the Beis HaMikdash, with no awareness of this happening at all. Okay, now the question is, if that's your whole source, because it says LaHashem, how do you know it's only for the tumah and the Beis HaMikdash? So let this be a kapara for any avera b'shegig that a person does, and he is not aware at all that he did this, that it should be a kapara. So Tanu de Rabbi Shmuel, so Rabbi Shmuel they taught and explained, Hoyel v'zeh bo b'zman kavua. The carbon of Rosh Chodesh is coming a set time on Rosh Chodesh. V'zeh bo b'zman kavua. And also the carbon on Yom Kippur comes in a set time. And we're talking about the soil of Yom Kippur that's brought on the outside. That's what we're comparing it to. So Mazein and Mechaper El Al Tumas Mikdash v'Kadoshov, just like the soil that's in the Beis HaMikdash on Yom Kippur. What's the kapara for? Only for the tomb of the Beis HaMikdash. Avzein and Mechaper El Al Tumas Mikdash v'Kadoshov. So too, the carbon on Rosh Chodesh, the kapara that we said that it's Mechaper on Aveda, that the person had no awareness of, it's on this Aveda. Similar to Yom Kippur on the tomb of Mikdash v'Kadoshov. Sagt the Gemara weiter, Ashkechon Seirei Rosh Chodashim. Okay, so we have the source here in the lashon of the pasuk that it says by the carbon of Rosh Chodesh that it's mechaper for the aveda of Tumas Mikdash v'Kadoshav when there's no awareness at all. However, Siriyah Golim Minayin, Rabbi Yehuda said that every desire of every yontif, the chatos of the musaf of yontif, is also mechaper for this. From where do we know this? If you answer and say Honami kedetonu de Rabbi Shmuel, that this we also learn from Tana de Rabbi Shmuel, meaning the same exact thing. Just like Yom Kippur is a carbon that's on a zman kavua, on a set time, and it's mechaper only for Tumas Mikdash, so therefore on Yontiv as well. But you can't make that kind of comparison. This is a comparison that's a binyan av. We're just comparing misvara that they're equal, but you can't make this comparison because there's a difference. If you'd want to compare the chatas of every yontiv to Rosh Chodesh, I'll tell you can't learn from Rosh Chodesh. Why? Shekein tadir. Rosh Chodesh is more common. It's 12 times a year, so you can't compare to Yom Tov. If you want to compare Yom Tov to Yom Kippur, I'll tell you can't compare to there either. Shekein merubah kaparosai. B'chlal on Yom Kippur, it's mechaper on all of it. Yom Kippur is a kapara for everything, so you can't compare the carbon chatas of a Yom Tov to Yom Kippur. It's not, and I hear that Rashi explains. The point is that we're talking over here about a kapara that should come and be mechaper for the tumah in the Beis HaMikdash, or when you eat kachim. That's an aveda where you chayav kadis for it. So to learn out that even for such a severe aveda where there's kadis, to learn it from Yom Kippur, you can't, because Yom Kippur has a unique power, because kaparasim merubah. And Taisus actually adds here, the svara that the Gemara says regarding Rosh Chodesh, that it's tadir, that it's constant, is similar to the concept of what it's saying Yom Kippur. Just like by Yom Kippur was saying that it's a bigger kapara, so to the fact that every Rosh Chodesh is a kapara shows that there's more of a kapara in Rosh Chodesh. That's why the Gemara doesn't say that you can learn with a tzad shava. Usually the Gemara says if you can't learn one from one, you learn from both together. But over here, they both have a similar point that they have more of a kapara to it. So you can't learn from there regarding Yom Tiv that it would be mechaper for such a severe aveda of Tumas Mikdash v'Kadoshav, which is Kaddish. Now, if you'll ask, based on what we're saying now, well, if you can't learn from the Yom Kippur, because Yom Kippur has a bigger kapara, but Hagamrin Rosh Chodesh with the Yom Kippur. Before, when the Gemara asked the question regarding Rosh Chodesh, that maybe Rosh Chodesh is mechaper for every aveda when a person had no awareness. That's what it says in the pasuk LaHashem. So we said, no, we learn from Yom Kippur to say that it's only mechaper for Tumas Mikdash v'Kadoshav, because this is man kavua, this is man kavua. So how are we learning out over there from Yom Kippur? V'lei parchina and hasam. And there we didn't ask this question that we're asking now. Okay, so the Gemara answers that it's not the same thing. Why? Because kapare, v'lei parchina, that is. That's how you read it. Sorry. V'lei parchina, there we didn't ask this question. Answers the Gemara, hasam Kapara michtav ksive. Over there, regarding Yom Kippur, it says in the pasuk the term chatas lashem, which means it's mechaper for any aveda that a person did where there's no awareness, didn't realize b'chlal. That would include even an aveda of kodesh. It says stam every aveda. So we're not coming to be mechadish that this includes such a severe aveda of kodesh. That's included. Elamai gilu milsa ba'almahu. Then we learn out from Yom Kippur to actually minimize the kapara. Since Yom Kippur is Mane Kavua and Rosh Chodesh is also a set time, so we compare and say that we're actually going to say that it's less of a kapara. It's not a kapara for everything. It's a kapara only for Tumas Mikdash v'Kedusha. So that you can learn out from Yom Kippur. But over here, when we don't know b'chlal, what's the source for the kapara of Yom Tiv that is mechaper for such an aveda that has kares, Tumas Mikdash v'Kedusha. So we can say kula milsa loy gemrina. The entire concept that you learn this from Yom Tiv, from Yom Kippur, you can't learn out. You have to have a different source to say that it's mechaper even for such an aveda of kares. Yom Kippur, which is kaparas and meruba, can't be a source for the very concept itself. So therefore, you don't learn from Yom Kippur. So where do you learn this out from? Zok the Gemara El Kedama Rab Chama Bar Chanina. Rab Chama Bar Chanina says you learn it because the pasuk could have said Sa'ir, and instead it writes with a vav usiir. I think that's the lashon of the pasuk usiir izim. So it says with the extra vav. This is by the carbon of Yom Tiv. It says that after Rosh Chodesh, and it says afterwards is usiir with a vav. So Rab Chanina darshans this later in the Gemara regarding something else. So Hanami here as well regarding this Shiloh, we can say Seir. It could have said the word Seir without a vav, and it says Useir. So therefore, that means that we have to compare what it says here to what's before. Ve'iskish Seirei Regalim Ve'Seirei Rosh Chodashim. We compare the goat that's brought as a chatas and Yom Tov to what's brought in Rosh Chodesh. Ma Seirei Rosh Chodashim Eina Machaperim El Al Sheim B'Yediyah Loi B'Tchila V'Loi B'Soif. Just like we concluded before regarding the Soyer of Rosh Chodesh, that it's Machaper for the Tumah of Beis HaMikdash when there was no awareness at all. It's mechaper for the Tumas Mikdash v'Kedushav that has no yediyah, not in the beginning and not in the end. That's the source of this limud. So Rashi here just clarifies, even though this kapara by Rosh Chodesh, it never says it explicitly by Rosh Chodesh. And we once had before, Rashi mentioned that there's a rule regarding kochim when you have something that says not explicitly in the Torah. It's just learned from a hekish. It's learned from a limud of a hekish. You can't then take that concept and make a secondary hekish to learn it out in another place. That's the rule. But over here, Rashi says, even though it doesn't say beferish by Rosh Chodesh, but it's learned by Rosh Chodesh, not with a hekish. It's learned by Rosh Chodesh with a binyanav, which is a comparison misvara that we compare Rosh Chodesh to Yom Kippur. That you actually could learn out again with a hekish to Yom Tiv with this word usiir with the vav, that Yom Tiv as well, it's mechaper on the same thing. So the Gemara Boyalahu, the Shaila was asked about Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Kiyama Rabbi Yehuda, when Rabbi Yehuda said this, that al she'ein ba yediyah loy b'tchila v'loy b'seif, that an aveda of Tumas Mikdash that a person did where there was no awareness at all, not in the beginning and not after, and this is what it is mechaper for, Chodesh and Yom Tiv. What exactly does it mean, the case here, when we say that there's no awareness? Sahane mili, do I say when is this? Maybe it's only bechet she'ein soife livoda. Not only is he not aware now, but it happened in such a way that nobody saw this happening, and there's no way he's ever going to find out about it. Mamish literally, like we said before, Lashem, only Hashem knows about this. So then I say that the carbon of Rosh Chodesh and Yom Tov is mechaper. But a case where the person himself, right now he's not aware what he did, but in the end he's going to find out about it. Why? Because someone else saw, and someone else is going to let him know what happened. So this is Kamisha Yesh, but Yidiyah B'Soiv Dami. So this is already considered to be in the category of this Tomeh that there is a Yidiyah B'Soiv, even though he doesn't know yet, but he's going to find out soon. And therefore, V'Soir Anasa B'Chutz. So that goes into a different category. That the goat of Yom Kippur that's brought outside, that's mechaper for this. Or perhaps I say, this aveda, that in the end he's going to find out, but right now, though he does not yet know about it, so El Hashem, only Hashem knows about it, Karina Bey. We could, the pasuk that it says La Hashem applies here as well, because right now only Hashem knows about it and the person knows nothing. So therefore it's the side of Rosh Chodesh and Yom Tov that are mechaper. So the Gemara says there's a clear braysa about this, what Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is. The Tanya, the braysa says, if the person is not aware of the Aveda, not before, not after, v'chet shesoifer livoda, and then he adds, even in Aveda, this chet of Tumas Mikdash, that he is going to eventually find out that someone else knows about it and will tell him. The Chattas of Yantif and Rosh Chodesh is mechaper for this, not from Yom Kippur, but from Yantif and Rosh Chodesh. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, this is Rabbi Yehuda's opinion about this. Going back to the Mishnah, it said, Rab Shimon Oimer, Rab Shimon says, Seirei Regalim mechaperim. The Karban Chattas, the goat of Yantif, is mechaper for this case. The Tumah of the Beis HaMikdash, or the Kachim, where the person has no awareness, not before or after. But the Sirah Rosh Chodesh is actually not mechaper for this. And Rab Shimon says in the Mishnah, what is the side of Rosh Chodesh mechaper for? A person that ate kachim, he ate from a carbon when the carbon is tamei. That's what it's mechaper for. A different thing. So Amar Rabbi Lazar, Amar Rabbi Shia, my time with Rab Shimon. What is the source of Rab Shimon's opinion? On Makra, the pasuk says, regarding Rosh Chodesh, the carbon of Rosh Chodesh, v'oisa nasan lechem loses esavayna eida. This carbon was given to you to forgive for the aveda of the eida of the congregation of the Yidden. Now v'haikra b'sa'ir the Rosh Chodesh. This is a pasuk that's written about the carbon of Rosh Chodesh. What is the context of this pasuk? This is the pasuk on Yom Hashmini Lamiluim, when there were actually 3 goats that were brought as a chatos. There was one that was brought, or actually I don't know if they were all a chatos, but there was one that was brought as the special carbon for Yom Hashmini, the day that the Shechina comes down in the Mishkan. A second sari was brought by Nachshain, the first of the Nesiim, that brought the karbanis of the Nesiim. He brought a goat as well for a chatos. And then the third one was the side of Rosh Chodesh. And over there, the discussion between Aaron and Moshe regarding why from the side of Rosh Chodesh did he not eat from it when they were Ainon and Adav and Aviyah passed away. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, this side of Rosh Chodesh that you did not eat from it, it's supposed to atone for the Avayna Eidah. So this is the pasuk talking about that side of Rosh Chodesh. Now, now, we learn out a Gzeira Shaveh. It says here Avain, and then it says also Avain mitzitz. The word Avain also says by the kapara of the tzitz that the Kohen wears on his forehead. Nemakan Avain, it says here by the Shchedesh the term Avain. V'nem alahalon Avain, and it says by the tzitz that the Kohen wears also the term that it's mechaper on Avain. The lashon of the pasuk there is v'nasa Aaron is Avain akadoshim. Asher Yekdishu b'nei Yisrael. So Mala Halon, by the tzitz, what is the tzitz mechaper for? Tumas basar. When there's a tumah in the basar that was brought as a carbon, that's the kapara of the tzitz. As the Gemara learns out. So Afkan, over here, it says in the pasuk, Avayna Kadoshim, the tumah of the kachim. Afkan, tumas basar. Here as well, what's the carbon of the Rosh Chodesh mechaper for? Not the tumah of the person when he walked into the Beis HaMikdash or he ate from kachim, but it's mechaper on the tumah of the basar, when the carbon was tamei and the person ate from it. Okay, so the Gemara asks, if that's the source, this Gzeira Shaveh that we compare, if so, why wouldn't I say, Ima lahalon oilin, by the tzitz? What is the point of the kapara? The kapara, it's not mechaper actually for the person, for the kohen or the person that ate from this carbon which is tamei. The kapara over there is that it's oilin. What does it mean, oilin? The whole kapara is just the fact that you bring this on the mizbeach, it'll be meratzeh, it'll be accepted. So it's the kapara for the carbon itself that it'll be accepted on the mizbeach, but it's not a kapara for the person. So afkan oilin. So maybe over here I should say that this Gzeira Shaveh teaches me that it's mechaper only for the person. Sorry, it's not mechaper for the person that is. It's only mechaper for the carbon, that it should be brought in the mizbeach, that it should be meratzeh, that it should do what the carbon does.
Do you need both?
Oh, so Rashi says, the Gemara is soon going to say this, why do you need 2 kaparas for this? Let's say the kohen is not wearing his tzitz. The tzitz broke, so the kohen is not wearing his tzitz. So the Torah gives a second option of a kapara, that the side of Rosh Chodesh would be mechaper, not for the person, but that it's oil on the mizbeach.
So for the coin?
No, it's for the actual carbon itself, that the carbon will be meratzeh, that the carbon will do the effect that it does on the mizbeach, but not to be mechaper for the person that was makriv. That's what it should come to do. This is Rashi's pshat in the Gemara. Tosfos actually says a little bit different, that what the Gemara is trying to say is that maybe the tzitz, the kapara of the tzitz, is for the actual carbon itself, that it's accepted on the mizbeach, and then the carbon of Rosh Chodesh would be mechaper for the kohen that's sacrificing it, that's burning it, that's bringing it to burn it on the mizbeach. But how do you know that it's mechaper for a kohen or for a yid that eats from this carbon that's tamei. That maybe there's no source for. So the Gemara says, no, it says in the pasuk, Avayna Eidoksiv, the Avain, the Aveda of the people. So that means all the people. The people means not only the kohen that's being mechaper the carbon, and not only the mizbeach. It means anybody that eats from the carbon while it's tamei. That's what it's a kapara for. Okay, but the Gemara goes further. This is a Gzeira Shavuos. We're comparing the two. So mechti, let's see. Mig megamri ma'adadi. We learn them out from each other. If so, I would say mechaper the rish chodesh adidei. The carbon of rish chodesh should be mechaper for what it's mechaper for. That it's mechaper on the person that eats from a carbon that's tamei. Va'ad it sits. And it should also have the ability to be mechaper what the tzitz is mechaper for, and that is that the carbon is accepted on the mizbeach. So the carbon of Rish Chodesh itself should have the ability to accomplish both, because I learned not the Gzeira Shavuos of Oven. Are you going to ask, why do you need the carbon of Rish Chodesh to do both? I have the tzitz for that. So here the Gemara says it, Nafkemine laheiche de nishbarat tzitz. If the tzitz is not available, the tzitz broke. So now the carbon of Rish Chodesh could be mechaper in its place. Says the Gemara, Makra Ovain. So it uses a singular term, one Aveda. Ovain Echad Hu Neisa. The carbon of Rish Chodesh is mechaper for one Aveda, Ve'ein Neisa Beis Avain. It's not mechaper in 2 points, in 2 things. The Gemara asks in the opposite as well, V'nechaper it sits adidei v'ad Rish Chodesh. The tzitz itself should have the ability, when the kohen wears the tzitz, or even if he doesn't wear it, but the tzitz, when it's not broken, the tzitz should be able to be mechaper for what it's mechaper for, and that is that it's the carbon is accepted, and also for what Rish Chodesh is mechaper for, which means if someone eats from a carbon when the carbon is tamei as well, and nafkemine, the reason you would need the tzitz itself to be mechaper for both is the tumah de'ira ben zelizeh, for a tumah that happened between one Rish Chodesh and another. You don't have to wait until the next Rish Chodesh, and it could be mechaper right away. Makro, so the pasuk here says by the tzitz, or the pasuk says that is by the Chodesh actually, oisa. By the Chodesh, the pasuk says va'oisa nas lechem l'savayin eida, which means oisa noisa oven ve'en acheres noisa oven. That only the Chodesh is mechaper for this, but the tzitz is not mechaper for this. Ravashi says another answer. Ksiv hacha oven eida, eida v'loy kachim. It says the term oven eida. That means that the oven of the Eidah, it's mechaper, but not for kachim. So Ravashi is going on both of the questions that the Gemara asked there, that the carbon of Rish Chodesh should be mechaper what the tzitz is mechaper for, and the tzitz should be mechaper what Rish Chodesh is mechaper for. So Ravashi says no. Since it says avoyin ha'edah, that means the people that eat. That's what Rish Chodesh is mechaper for, not for the kachim itself that it's accepted on the mizbeach. And over here it says Avayna Kadoshim, which means what's accepted on the Mizbeach, but not for the eating of the people that are eating from the carbon. So these are the 2 kaparas of the tzitz and the carbon of Rish Chodesh. Okay, so the Gemara Ashkechon. So now, according to this opinion here, Rab Shimon, we see that Siri Rosh Chadashim the Mechapri al Tar Shachal es Atame. It's mechaper for a person that's tar that eats from the carbon that is tamei. Siri the Golem. Now, according to this opinion, the carbon chatas are very yomtiv. The mechapri al she'ein ba yidiyah loy betchila v'loy b'sayif, that it's mechaper for a person that walks into the Beis HaMikdash or he eats from kachim when he was not aware at all. Minalam, from where do we know this? This Rab Shimon agrees. Rab Shimon also says that the carbon of every yontif is mechaper for a person that walked into the Beis HaMikdash with no awareness. So now l'chayda we can't say the limit that the Gemara brought before. Before the Gemara said that it's a hekesh to Rish Chodesh. It says u'seir, it's a hekesh to Rish Chodesh, just like Rish Chodesh is chaper for this, yontif is also. But not according to Rab Shimon. According to Rab Shimon, Rish Chodesh is mechaper for something else. It's mechaper when a person ate from a carbon that's tamei. So from where do I know that the carbon of yontif is mechaper for this case when there was no awareness when he walked into the Beis HaMikdash? Okay, so let's try to finish the ending here. So the Gemara says, that Rab Chanina said, we go back to the same limud that the Gemara said before, that we do learn it out from this extra word of seir, this extra letter of seir. The Gemara is going to explain how. It could have said seir, and instead it says with a vav seir. So Hanami here as well, according to Rab Shimon, I say seir, and it could have said seir, and it says seir. And the iskish, I compare seir regalim, the goat, the chatos that's brought in yontif, l'seir Rosh Chodashim, to the carbon that's brought, the chatos that's on every Rish Chodesh. And therefore I say, ma'asar the Rish Chodesh b'milse the kodesh mechapri. On Rish Chodesh it's mechaper for something related to kodesh, even though a different thing. When a person eats from the carbon that's tamei, but it's related to kodesh, Afsir regalim b'milsa the kodesh mechapri. On Yantav as well, the carbon is mechaper for something related to kodesh. And what case is that? When a person walked into the Beis Hamikdash or ate from kachim with no awareness at all. And now the Gemara will spell out how do I make this limud? Why shouldn't I compare it to the Chodesh completely? So the Gemara says, because if you'll argue and say, Nechapru ad Chodesh, let it be mechaper for the same thing that Chodesh is mechaper, if you're saying there's a hekesh. But no, but that can't be, because Ha'amrino, we already said before, Oisa. By Chodesh it uses the term, according to Rab Shimon, it says the term Oisa, which means Oisa noisa avin, ve'en acher noisa avin. That only Chodesh is mechaper for this aveda of eating from the kachim and not anything else, so not yontiv either. The chitayme, and then if you argue and say nechapru ad yom kippurim, let it be mechaper for what Yom Kippur is mechaper, and that is the case where a person came into the Beis Hamikdash and he had no yediyah in the beginning, but he did have a yediyah b'seif. Right, so we're saying that it's mechaper for a case where the person had no awareness at all. Maybe it's mechaper for the case where the person did not have a yediyah, but he is aware now. So no, that it's not mechaper for what Yom Kippur is mechaper, because Ha'amrino, we already brought before, and Daf Test in the beginning, it said there, Achas Pashana, that the Achas Pashana teaches that only Yom Kippur is mechaper for this. So that Kapara Zulay Tehei ala Achas Pashana, it's only on Yom Kippur. So therefore the Gemara concludes, Amai mechapri, even according to Rab Shimon, the Kar Mechatos in the Musaf of Yom Tiv, what is it mechaper for? So if it would be a case where a person was Tomei and he walked into the Beis Hamikdash and he knew in the beginning and then he found out later, so high bar carbon, it's not mechaper for that. That's that he has to bring a carbon for. In a case where the person was aware in the beginning and he's not aware in the end, so that has already its kapara. High sora nasa b'fnim v'yom kippurim taila. The carbon that you decide that you bring inside the Beis Hamikdash, Yom Kippur is taila for that. That's mechaper for this. If it would be a case where the person did not have an awareness in the beginning, but later in the end he found out about it, so that also on Yom Kippur it's mechaper. The other goat, the goat that's brought outside, is mechaper for that. So what are we left with? Al karchach. So therefore, here in the pasuk, when we compare the side of Yom Tiv to the side of Rosh Chodesh, that they both are mechaper for Kodesh, which one is left? The only one that's left is ein mechaper. Only this case, ela al she'ein b'yediyah loy b'tchila v'loy b'seif. If the person had no awareness, not in the beginning and not in the end, that's what the side of Yom Tiv is mechaper for, even according to Rab Shimon.